Welcome back to another episode of Meet the Monster. We've tackled the animated construct and the living creature so far, so time to look at the undead. Convenient how that worked out. This week we're looking at the crawling hand, a fun little monster with some cool abilities that make it quite dangerous indirectly and also make it a great narrative tool outside of combats. Monster Core tells us that this monster is a crawling hand formed from the appendage of a medium creature which is quick and agile. It skitters around in the shadows until it can strike its prey. Typically, crawling hands are formed when severed appendages are endowed with a crude sentience by necromantic energies that turn them into tireless killers. Yet, crawling hands can also arise spontaneously when a creature loses an appendage in an area rife with necromantic energy or cosmic connection with the void. It also has a very fun passage on the apparent origins of the crawling hand from more of a folktale kind of perspective, which is a very fun read and I'd highly recommend. So, they're a lot like Thing T Thing from the Addams Family, and they have the tiny, undead and unholy traits. Tiny recovered in the compies. They can occupy the same space as a larger creature than them, and they need to be in the same space to attack if they reach 0 for their attacks. An undead creature is determined as the following. Once living, these creatures were infused after death with void energy and soul-corrupting unholy magic. When reduced to 0 hit points, an undead creature is destroyed. Undead creatures are damaged by vitality energy and are healed by void energy, and don't benefit from healing vitality effects. You might think unholy would amount to the same, however it is slightly different. Effects of the unholy trait are tied to powerful magical forces of cruelty and sin. They often have stronger effects on holy creatures. Creatures with this trait are devoted to unholy causes and often have weaknesses to holy, so it works both ways. If a creature with a weakness to unholy uses an unholy item or effect, it takes damage from its weakness. Think of it this way, the creature itself is undead and thus it takes damage from vitality and gains healing from void, but it was created by forces that are unholy and would have it do unholy deeds. That's how I see it anyway. This is in essence means that it can deal more damage to holy characters or other creatures, but it also gets more damage dealt from them. This is due to how the new sanctification rules that were added with the remaster work, which maybe we'll look at another time. Keep in mind that not all undead creatures are unholy, and not all unholy creatures are undead. Revolutionary thinking here, I know. If you want more incredible facts like that, why not subscribe? Now, being undead comes with certain advantages. For example, you are immune to bleed and death effects, and cannot be diseased, poisoned, or paralyzed, or made unconscious. You aren't alive, so none of these things hold any power over you anymore. The crawling hand is also immune to effects caused by the visual trait, because, no eyes. It has other ways to see, which we'll loop back to in a moment. The hand has 8 hit points and an AC of 12, so quite easy to dispatch, much like the compies. Though of course, as an undead, healing spells will damage it too, and damaging void spells, anti-life essentially, will heal it. As for skills and saves, the reflex save is a +5, the fortitude and will being at +2. Note this isn't a mindless creature, so there may be ways for party to try and dupe them, as long as they don't require it to see you. It is also trained in athletics at +5, stealth at +6, and athletics at +2. Well, that's not right. It is also trained in athletics at +5, stealth at +6, and survival at +2, which definitely hints at what this creature is often used for. Its attributes give it a +1 strength, +3 dex, +0 con, -4 intelligence, 0 wisdom, and 0 charisma, in case you're wondering. It has a perception of +5, about standard for its level, but its senses get pretty interesting. It has both life sense and tremor sense out to 30 feet. So, what are these senses? Well, life sense allows a monster to sense the vital essence of living and undead creatures within a listed range. The sense can distinguish between the vitality energy of living things and the animating energy and the void energy animating undead things, much as distinguishing colours. Simple enough and very tricky to hide from. Tremor sense allows a monster to feel vibrations through a solid surface caused by movement. It usually is an imprecise sense with a limited range, listed in the ability, and tremor sense functions only if the monster is on the same surface as the subject, and only if the subject is moving along it, or burrowing through it. So even if you are a construct, the hand can still find you if you move. We covered imprecise senses last time, so check the compy video out if you want more on those, but essentially think of it like your hearing. You know the rough direction of something, but you probably can't pinpoint exactly where the sound comes from. So, you can count as hidden rather than observed to the crawling hand. Life sense is precise though, so if you are within 30 feet, it knows exactly where you are. However, this doesn't mean it has sight in every direction all at once, so from what I understand, it can still be flanked. If you wanted to recall any of this knowledge before going into combat or during combat with one of these creatures, you could make a DC 13 undead, religion, check, or DC 11 with unspecific lore, or DC 8 check with specific lore. So again, fairly common undead to see, I suppose. I guess there are a lot more hands around than people, right? You know what I mean. And finally, if you want to try and get away from one, good luck, as they have a move speed of 30 feet, and a climb speed of 30 feet. So those little horrors are faster than most player characters. And if they do catch up with you, what will they do? Well, they have one attack, Claw. Makes sense. It has a +7 to hit and deals 1d4 +1 slashing damage, plus Throat Grab. It has the Agile and Finesse traits and a reach of 0 feet. So, Agile, less of a multiple attack penalty, uses Dex for the attack roll because it's Finesse as we know, and it being tiny means it needs to be right up next to you for it to get a hit in. If it does though, then it becomes more dangerous as it gets to try and use Throat Grab. This is a grab effect, which is a dangerous combo move some monsters get, where if they hit you with an attack, they can make a grab as a follow-up action that is neither affected by or adds towards the multiple attack penalty against you. Ouch. If it does grab you, then you start you're off guard, reducing your AC and making you immobilized, meaning you can no longer move, because you're kind of dealing with the fact that you're being choked by a hand. You also have to succeed on a DC 5 check to perform any manipulate actions, and in the case of the throat grab specifically, must spend an action to perform any actions that require speaking, including casting spells. That's pretty dangerous, especially for a caster. And here we get to what this little facehugger appendage guy's purpose is, or at least feels like it is to me. They're a tiny assassin, stalking their prey and waiting for the right moment to strike and take them out. They have an additional feature which works quite well with that as well, Mark Quarry. A crawling hand can be assigned a quarry by anointing the hand with a drop of the intended quarry's blood. If the hand has no quarry, it automatically gains the next creature it damages as a quarry, because, you know, blood. The hand gains a +1 circumstance bonus to perception checks when it seeks its quarry, to survival checks when it tracks its quarry, and to damage rolls when it strikes its quarry. And there you go, a little spidery assassin with the powers to strangle you in your sleep, or just drop from the ceiling and bam, it gets you. Well, let's see how it fares against our level 1 party in this instance, and then talk about how I think it could be better used outside of a basic combat. We start by rolling stealth for our crawling hands because they are lying in wait to ambush our party. These are their marked quarries, each of them going to attack a specific party member. None of our party's passive perception is going to be high enough to spot any of these, even at 19, so they are going to be off guard as these guys are going to be completely undetected. We will roll their perception for their initiative for when the combat starts though, which is now. As you can see, Ranyisi did roll well, so she will be able to act pretty quick, but she will only be able to act against any which she can see, which is one of them. We put them in order, we'll add Ray's +2 from gunslingery stuff that I'd forgotten, and the first calling hand moves out of the bushes and attacks Ray. Ray's off guard, but it rolls a 5 on a 4 and still completely misses. Ranyisi is up next. She will start as a bard by using her lingering composition, which means that her focus spells last longer. This is going to be a success. It will last an extra 2 rounds instead of just being 1 round. She then uses Courageous Anthem for 1 action, which gives +1 to damage and attacks and fear effects, and will cast Daze. The crawling hand fails to save, so it takes 5 points of damage. Again, it's not mindless, it can take mental damage. The next crawling hand is going to scuttle out of the shadows and try and attack Masal. Again, it was undetected, so Masal is off guard, and it lands a hit, dealing 5 damage, which Masal can take, but it does also succeed on the grab. Masal is quite low to the ground, I suppose, so it's easier to do. The next crawling hand is going to move and try and attack Ranyisi. It also lands a hit, but it was minimum damage, so that's alright. And I did the damage for the moment to the wrong person. It then also attempts to grab, but rolls a 4 on the dice, horrendous, does not succeed. The final one goes for Exemplo, which hits also for minimum damage, which is nice, and also rolls appallingly. Ray is up next. They can unsheath and move 10 steps, because Gunslinger. They make an attack, and they roll a natural 20. This is going to very easily obliterate that hand. They then raise their shield. They should probably have had another action, and that's just me muddling things up, but they still did a pretty good job. They could probably have reloaded there. We very quickly skipped over Exemplo, but he broke free and able to cast Runic Weapon on Masal, which makes their weapon more powerful. Masal is up next and is able to use unarmed attack because her weapon is not out to break free and then just freaking punch the hand that's next to her. Another very high roll. They're doing pretty well with their rolls comparatively to the hands, which are doing pretty badly. My point exactly. Ranyisi punches this hand next to her, and it also goes down. This is pretty crazy. She's able to cast Daze on this one again, but it gets a critical success. It tries to attack, and eventually manages to strike Exemplo, but only on the 3rd attack, so it can't try to grab. Ray moves in and tries to punch the hand to try and get away from Exemplo, and does manage to, though only deals 1 damage, and then raises their shield. And now Exemplo fights back, and again gets a crit. Impressive. As you can see from this, the hands went down pretty quick. Was it in part thanks to good rolls? Sure, but even without those, they aren't going to be taking much more than 2 hits, even from a level 1 party. And that's kind of what level -1 creatures are designed to do. But this is fine, as with our previous entries, I feel like these level -1 creatures work in many ways outside of just being combat encounters by themselves. You can have them as a necromancer's assistants, helping out around the lab, in a similar though more creepy way to the brooms from a couple of episodes ago, or to spice up an undead combat. Maybe the party is fighting a group of zombies, only to hit one in such a way that the arm is chopped off, and then suddenly, the hand gets back up and keeps fighting, and a new combatant is now in the fight. A crawling hand. A fun way to spice up a combat, and in a way your players aren't immediately expecting potentially, that also feels flavourful for zombies that are already falling apart. But the best way to use them, I think, is as assassins. A string of important nobles found strangled to death in their homes with no spaces large enough for people to get in, no broken windows or doors. Commoners have lot lower DCs and lower hit points, so it makes a lot more sense that they would be more vulnerable to an attack as well. This way the hands can function more as a plot device than a proper encounter, and the players can plan an encounter around trying to catch the culprits of the attacks, only to find out it's a hand. And then there can be a brief encounter, sure, but once it's done, the hand may reveal who the true mastermind is, or another location to investigate and explore. This way the hands are part of a larger scenario, and fighting them isn't the most interesting part about them, which I think is pretty cool. But if you do want to use them in a fight, what could we do? Well, in addition to giving the monster the elite trait, making it a bit more powerful, they also do have a giant hand variant, which we will cover when we get to it at a later level. But you could also make a hand with like really sharp fingernails that really dig in when it grabs you, and maybe deals persistent bleed damage on a crit. Or maybe ones which are strapped with Alchemist's Fire or similar explosive, and they simply grab on and hold on to you and wait for you to hit them, causing them to explode or cover you in fire, and suddenly their relatively low HP and AC becomes a problem for the players, because now they want to get their hands off and thrown away before they can dispatch them. They could similarly be used as little scouts in a dungeon, which, if they spot you, will run off and grab reinforcements to come deal with you, like the little mouse droids in the Death Star. This way, again, the monster itself is easy enough to dispatch, but it still comes with a more panicked situation of if the party doesn't hide well enough, then they'll try and scamper, and then you need to really make sure you go and get them so that you don't have to deal with a larger undead that comes back to attack you. You could definitely use them as more of a set piece as well, with a trap just triggering a horde of hands scrambling and charging towards you that you need to escape from rather than fight. Could be very creepy, though maybe check if you have any arachnophobes in your party first, as this might be getting a bit too close to a swarm of spiders. There are so many ways to use them, and it's been a lot of fun going through and thinking about how they could be utilised in a game. But as always, please let me know if you've got any ways that you've used the crawling hand in the past in the comments below. And if I did miss anything, or got any of the rules wrong, please let me know down below as well, and I will make sure I pin it in the comments. And that's it for now. Next time we'll be looking at our first proper flying creature, the eagle. Until then, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.